Okay, so today we are going to start single phase transformer. What is transformer? Why it is required? I am going to cover the construction part very briefly. Okay, as you are electronics engineering students, it is not very important to know the of vivid description of a construction of any transformer, but the most of the important thing we are going to cover the working principle of a single phase transformer. And today what we are going to understand, what is the EMF equation of a transformer, how can we get the EMF equation of a transformer, and what is the phasor diagram. Transformer, generally we put the transformer when it is connected to a system, there must be a load, but initially when we do the charging of transformer at the initial part, we also put it in a no load also. So we will discuss today what is no load, what is on load with respect to a transformer. Okay, so let's start. First, just start with the very brief construction. Say, what is transformer? Transformer is a device, electrical device. It is a static device. There is no rotating part in a transformer. It is basically a device which actually give you it is actually works on the principle of magnetic induction. Okay, and in a transformer, if you provide a voltage in a limb, okay, if you provide a voltage in a limb, it will going to give you the induced voltage in the another side. So the transformer is basically electrically isolated but magnetically coupled. So it is basically a magnetic circuit. The simple thing of a transformer, if you understand, it is a magnetic circuit. That means it is having a magnetic core within it, but which through which the flux can pass. So the material of a transformer should be it should have a permeability, so that the fluxes will pass through, pass on it. Okay, and the EMF which is induced on the transformer, initially you put a EMF. Obviously you put a voltage source on the primary side. There will be two sides of a transformer. One will be where you will give this voltage directly, you connect the voltage from the system, that will be the primary side. Okay, and that voltage will be actually with the help of the magnetic induction on self and mutual induction, you are going to get it from the another side, and that electrical winding is actually not connected, electrically connected. Okay, so that means what I would like to mean you, that suppose I am trying to say that there must be, in case of a transformer, as per construction, the transformer is a device which is having a electromagnetic material within it, so that the flux can move. So if I draw a very in a very simplified way, there will be a electromagnetic part, and it is generally known as core. Okay, so this is generally known as core. So it is a static device which is having a core into it. So what is core? Core is nothing but the magnetic material on which the flux can move. You know, the flux cannot move generally in air. The permeability is very less. Naturally, if the flux present is in air, the amount of flux will not be more. But if it is a permeable material, the amount of flux is more, density of flux is more. So we need a higher flux density material. So the core of the transformer is generally like that. Now in one side it's a single phase transformer, you can put a winding. Okay, so you are putting a winding on one side of a transformer. So this is called primary side of the transformer, and you are giving a voltage, a AC voltage single phase AC voltage. It's a, see, I am showing you a single phase transformer, so it's a single phase AC voltage connected here. Okay, and these, what is going to happen, as there is a rate of change of voltage, this will going to make, we know that when current is flowing through it, naturally the along with current, fluxes also grows. If there is a current flowing through a conductor, you all know now that there will be amount of flux there, certain amount of flux will appear there. So if there is voltage, definitely if it is a closed loop, obviously there will be a current, and the sinusoidal current will produce a sinusoidal flux. Okay, now this flux, what is going to happen, this flux is going to this flux is flowing, as it is a permeable material, naturally the flux, the phi, is flowing through this, and here you are giving another circuit. This is called secondary side of the transformer. This is the primary side, or 1 degree we can also express it in this way, and this is the secondary side. Okay, now in secondary side, if it is, there is a the loads are connected in the secondary side, and these connection and these connection, they are electrically isolated. Okay, and now these, when the flux is flowing through these what should I say, this core, it is going now, what you know, the law of EMF, law of magnetic induction, you know that rate of change of flux, that is a sinusoidal flux, naturally the average value of flux is changing. Naturally the rate of change of flux, that means that flux is changing with respect to time. So with respect to time, the amount of flux linking in this coil, this conductor, is changing. Naturally a EMF will be induced over here. Okay, so initially there was a EMF induced here, and that is going to produce another EMF here. Okay, so if there is a EMF, naturally current will flow and you will get a voltage across this load. So this is the basic principle of a circuit, of a transformer. So in a transformer, what actually required? The transformer, in transformer you need core and the winding. So this is the winding, this primary and secondary, they are the windings, and you need the magnetic element, that is the core. Okay, depending upon this part, transformer is divided generally in two ways. We can divide the transformer. One is called core type transformer and another one is called shell type transformer. Okay, so core type transformer and shell type transformer. I have given you two diagrams so that you can understand it in a better way. Now in case of a core type transformer, the winding, these are the windings. Okay, these windings actually they encircling the core. Look, this is the winding, these two windings, this is the primary and the secondary winding. Okay, now this winding is actually the core is in the middle and the winding is encircled like this. Okay, the winding is outside of the core. So this type of transformer, the winding encircles the core, and in the shell type transformer, the core is encircling the winding. So here in the shell type transformer, the core is here in middle, and the shell type transformer, the winding is in the middle. Okay, these are the windings, and the core is actually surrounded. So the core is surrounded in the outside of the winding. So these are called shell type transformers. Okay. So these are basically, generally shell type transformers are very small transformers, and we generally get core type transformer more when most of the transformer we get to see they are basically core type transformer. So only these amount of information I would like to give it to you on the transformer construction. Okay. Next, proceed for the next part, that is, if this is the transformer's construction, then how EMFs are actually induced. We can understand physically how, we get a glimpse that how EMF can be induced. So what will be the value of EMF? Now if I explain it in this way, suppose this is my flux. What I told you, so I have a transformer. In the primary side, I am putting a voltage. Okay, so this is a what type of voltage? This is a single phase AC voltage. Now due to this voltage, a current is flowing. So that current is a sinusoidal current. Now this current, what actually it will do? This current will produce the flux. We know if there is a current flowing through a conductor, it will always produce a magnetic flux. Okay, so naturally a magnetic flux will appear due to this current. And what will be the nature of the magnetic flux? The nature of the magnetic flux will be just like the current flowing through the circuit. So if the voltage is sinusoidal, the current will be sinusoidal. Naturally the flux will also be sinusoidal. Okay, so suppose this is the flux. The flux will be phi m sin omega t. Okay, the flux will be also phi m sin omega t. Is there any confusion up to this point? Any confusion? Okay.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so next what is going to happen? So what is the amount of flux? What is the flux? This is, I am assuming it is an instantaneous value, assuming this is the maximum value phi m, and this is the minimum value. So this is minus phi m. Okay, so this is phi m and this is minus phi m. And what we know? We know it is a periodic waveform and this is a single phase. So I can assume that the whole time is time period t, right? Now can anyone tell me the flux is ever changing? So if I want to take the average value of flux, I am going to take this approach. What approach? Now suppose at this time the flux is phi m, and at this particular time the flux is minus phi m. Okay, so if I able to know this amount of current, this amount of time elapsed between the flux equal to phi m and to minus phi m, that means flux changes from phi m to minus phi m. If I able to get the time, can you tell me what could be this time? If this 0 to this is t, so what could be this peak to peak value? The time elapsed for peak to peak value? Can anyone?
T by 2.
Yes, it will be t by 2. Very good. It will be t by 2. So if I want to get the average value of flux, how can I get? So average value of flux change. Average value of flux change can be my phi m to minus of phi m divided by t by 2, right? So I can write it as 2 phi m, that means 4 phi m by t.
By t.
Yes. So what is this? This is basically d phi, change in flux by time. Right? This is change in flux by time. That's so that I can write it as d phi by dt. And what do you know? What is d phi by dt?
E, ma'am.
E. Very good. So that means for if the number of turn is 1, if n is equal to 1, from the Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction, I can write that E equal to d phi by dt. So that means now I know that there is a relation between time period t and frequency. What is that? T equal to 1 by f. And if I put this equation over here, I can find that 4 phi m into f. This is basically EMF induced for one turn. EMF induced, average EMF induced per turn. So I can write it as average EMF induced per turn. Any problem?
No, ma'am.
No. So this is actually volts, right? So now when we have done the single phase AC, we have done one also. There was a form factor thing. If you can able to remember, this form factor was basically average value by RMS value. Average value upon RMS value, right? And it was for a sinusoidal wave shape, the value of form factor was 1.11. So this was 1.11. Okay, if I want to get the RMS value, because this is the average induced EMF between T by 2. Now if I want to get it from 0 to T, I need to have a RMS value. So using the this equation, this thing, that form factor is equal to average by RMS value, I can able to get that. Have I written wrong? It is RMS by average value.
RMS by IRMS by
Yes, IRMS. So this is RMS by average. Okay, so now I know the average value. What is the average value? I know. Can I get the RMS value? So the RMS value of induced EMF per turn equal to 4 into 1.11 into phi m into f, this volt, right? Now here you can able to understand that here in primary winding as well as in secondary winding, there will be several turns, not a single turn. So if the value in the primary winding is I1, if I assume that the primary winding is N1, then the RMS value of induced EMF for N1 turns will be 4.44 N1 phi m f volts, right? Similarly, what will be the induced EMF across the secondary? Assume that generally these values are the value of N1 and N2 is different. Okay, maybe N1 greater than N2 or N2 greater than N1. If N1 is greater than N2, it is called a step down transformer, and if N2 is greater than N1, it is called a step up transformer. I am telling you why it is. Let me finish this part. RMS value of induced EMF for N2 turns will be 4.44 N2 phi m f volts. So these are basically the EMF equation for primary and secondary of transformer, where primary is actually I am taking N1 turn in primary. So this EMF, the first EMF, it is the induced EMF on the primary side, and N2 is the number of turns in the secondary side. So this EMF is actually in the secondary side. So what we write? We write this as E1 and as E2. Okay, so E1 and E2. What is E1? E1 is the induced EMF in the primary side, and E2 is the induced EMF in the secondary side. Okay, okay. I am clearing the ink so that I can write. Okay. Next. So what we get? We get EMF equation. EMF equation is actually the EMF is proportional. EMF E1 equal to 4.44 phi mF into N1, this volts, and EMF E2 will be similar, only what is the difference? The difference depends upon the number of turns. Okay. Okay. Now, if I am telling you that the N1 and N2, the value of N1 and N2, they are generally different. Okay. So, when we draw a transformer, symbolically we draw this as a primary side. It is the induced EMF. This is the voltage V1. This is the EMF E1. This line, two parallel lines representing the core, and this is the secondary side. Okay, so this is the secondary induced EMF E2. In this way we used to draw a transformer. Now this is N1, this is N2. What I told you that when N1 is greater than N2, it is called step up transformer. Why? It is called step down transformer. N1 is greater than N2. When N1 is greater than N2, what will be the relation between E1 and E2? You know, E1 and E2, they are basically proportional with respect to N1 and N2. So I can... Yes, so it is N1 by N2. Now which is less? N1 is less. If N1 is less, naturally E1 is, if N1 is, if N1 is greater, therefore E1 is greater. That means the induced voltage in the primary side is greater than the secondary side. So that means the voltage is actually, what is the voltage over here, is actually stepping down in the secondary side. Naturally, if N1 is greater than N2, we will call it a step down transformer. That means the voltage on the secondary side will be lower than the voltage in the primary winding. Understood? Similarly, you can understand that if N2 is greater than N1, naturally my E2 will be greater than, following this equation, E2 will be greater than E1. That means my E2, if E2 is greater than E1, that means the voltage in the primary side will be less, but the voltage in the secondary side is more. So that means it will be give you a step up condition of voltage. Okay, step up condition of voltage. So when the secondary side number of turns is more, you will get the value of voltage more. So it is called a step up transformer. Understand? Okay. Next is, now in transformer, when it is actually transforming the voltage, that means you can understand by virtue of a transformer you can able to step up the voltage, right? So you know that there is a conservation of energy. You cannot get energy, you can transform a energy, but actually you cannot make the energy more. That means if something is more, something must be less. That is actually by convention of conservation of energy. So what actually happens in transformer, you now you know that several factors are there. Power, that there, you know about power triangle. triangle, you know that three components are present in power. One is called active power and another one is called reactive power, and the third and the most the accumulation of these two is actually apparent power, and we used to express it in volt ampere. That means voltage into current, product of voltage into current. So in case of a transformer, the voltage can step up or step down, but the voltage into current, volt ampere, that means voltage into current. What is that? The volt ampere. We know it. This is the apparent power, volt ampere. So this volt ampere thing of a transformer should be constant. You can step up a voltage, no problem, but you need to in the primary side, what will be the volt ampere should be the same in the secondary side. Okay, so that means suppose this is a transformer and I guess that the current flowing here is actually I1. So the current in the primary side is I1 and the current in the secondary side, suppose this is my I2. Okay, I2 can only happen if there is a load over here, right? So what is going to happen, I am assuming it with respect to E1 and E2. So the ampere, I am taking the induced voltage as the voltage here. So I am taking as E1 into I1 should be equal to E2 into I2. Approximately this should happen. Okay, so that means E1 by E2 must be I2 by I1. So can anyone tell me what is going to happen in step down transformer in case of
current?
Very good, very good. That means the voltage, when the voltage increases in case of a step down, in case of a step down transformer, the voltage drops but the current, the respective current increases, right? Similarly, in case of a step up transformer, the voltage in the secondary side rises but the current in the secondary side drops. Because why? Because in case of a transformer operation, the volt ampere must be constant. These must be constant. Any problem up to this point?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So let's go for the phasor diagram. So now what is phasor diagram? You know what is phasor diagram in case of a AC circuit you done. Now what in context of this transformer, how we will arrange it, how this phasor diagram is actually giving you which is dependent on which, why it is dependent, how it is actually dependent. In this the several equations, it will be in a form of graph. You will find it in the phasor diagram. Okay, so in the primary side here they have given it as VA, but I will assume 1 because I generally take it 1, and I will not take this because here what I am getting, I have taken it as an open circuit. So afterwards I will take V2 afterwards. I am only taking V1 at this present moment, and I am taking it is on no load. What do you mean by no load? That means the secondary side is kept open. Okay, what is there? There in the primary side there is a source, there is a winding, and the secondary side is kept open. There will be no load. It is on no load, that means the secondary side is open circuited. So no load means the secondary is open circuited. First you should understand this. So what we are going to do? We are going to draw a phasor diagram of a transformer whose secondary is open circuited. Understand? Now what is going to happen here? You have provided a voltage. So suppose I have provided a voltage. So this voltage Now what is going to happen? Due to this voltage, a current is actually flowing through this circuit. Now tell me, if it is an inductive circuit, what happens in a current? Transformer is basically, it is accumulation of coils, okay? It's a magnetic thing, flux is flowing through it, so you can able to understand it as a inductive circuit. So can you tell me what happens in an inductive circuit? If this is my voltage V, if this is my voltage V1, current will lag or lead? Lag. If it is a purely inductive circuit, how much will be the current lag? 90 degree, right? 90. Yes. That means if it is a voltage, so current here I am gauging it as I1, okay? Now what generally happens, due to this wire, this coil is having certain amount of resistance, certain amount of inductance, right? The current flowing through it, then it will be purely 90 degree, or a small value less than 90 degree. It is inductive circuit less than 90 degree, a small value less than 90 degree, right? If this resistance is not present, it will be 90 degree, otherwise it will be, yes. So that means the current, this is my, so the current is actually, the current, this I1 is actually almost 90 degree. And second thing, another thing, as there is no load, you know, suppose you are in a gym and you are having a 2 kilo of whatever the weight you used to lift, you are going to lift. So 2 kg is nothing, so you will just pull it. So now if they increase it 5 and then 10 and then 15, it will be difficult for you, and depending upon the amount of weight they are putting on the pulley, the amount of energy you need to what should I say, it should come from you so that you can lift it. So that means the amount of load, if it is increased, you need the more amount of energy to pull it, right? Like that, what do you mean by load? The load means actually the conducting path through which a current can flow. Okay, so load means basically amount of current. So when the circuit is open circuited, in the secondary side there is basically no load, nothing is there, nothing to pull. It's a very small amount of load, just like a 2 kg, so that you can pull it by one hand only. Okay, so that means if you increase the amount of this load, the amount of this side, suppose this is coming from your body and this is the load in the gym they have set for you. Okay, if this part is very small, a very small amount of energy is actually required from your body, right? So I1 is actually resembling that. So if this part is also negligible, there is no current actually, you have to provide from this side, so the amount of current in the primary side will be also low. So this current I1 is having a very small magnitude, and also it is a small angle less than 90 degree. Am I able to make you understand what I want to say? I am telling you that suppose if you want to lift a 500 grams of a packet, okay, how will you lift? You will just pull it with your one hand, right? You don't need to think. Very small amount of energy is required from your body to pull it up. But if it is a 5 kg what should I pack of a rice, it will be definitely you need more amount of energy from your side so that you can lift the 5 kg packet. Understand? That means that actually that thing is actually resemblance the primary side of current. If in the secondary side the load is high, then the amount of current, because you can understand the source is only present here, and if you want to get a amount of current from it, it will drag from the source. So more current is required in the secondary side. Naturally more amount of current will come from the primary side source. Understand? Understand, na? Okay. So that means here, as the amount of current is required is less, naturally the magnitude of the I1 is also less, and as this is almostly inductive, naturally some small amount of resistance is there, so my current is not absolutely 90 degree, a small lesser than 90 degree. Now what is going to happen afterwards? Now at this current, we know the flux that is going to generate depends upon this current I1. Okay. Now this current I1, if you think, the flux will always, the flux is actually purely inductive thing. So the flux will be always 90 degree lag with respect to the voltage. This current, a portion of the current, which portion? This I1, this portion, okay, this portion is actually I1 cos phi, and this portion is I1 sin phi, right? Now this I1 sin phi is actually making the flux. I1 sin phi is making the flux phi. So what is actually the what is the phasor diagram of phi over here? Phi is here. Phi is here, which is 90 degree lagging from the applied voltage, and it is following the I1. So that means this part of the current, this I1 sin phi is actually producing, not, I should not say, I should take it as not phi, I am taking it as theta, otherwise there will be a confusion. Okay, so I1 sin theta is actually generating the flux phi. Should I repeat? Or you understand?
No, I will repeat.
I am telling that the current, the voltage was V1. The current was I1. Now, how this flux phi is generating? The angle between the voltage and the current is theta. Okay. Now if I bifurcate this I1, I am getting two amount of the phasors. One is I1 cos theta in with respect to V1, and another is I1 sin theta. Now what is I1 sin theta? This I1 sin theta is actually generating the phi flux. And this I1 sin theta is actually on the 90 degree lagging with respect to V1. As it is generating the flux phi, naturally the phi will be 90 degree apart or 90 degree lagging with respect to V1. So we got, what are the thing we got? First we got that there is a V1. After that, from the V1 we get I1, and from the I1 we get the component phi 1. You understand this now? Yes. So now this, what we got, that this phi, the phi is actually inducing EMF. Okay, the maximum value of phi is actually inducing EMF E1 and E2. So this will be E1 and this will be E2. So E1 and E2 is actually induced due to this phi 1, presence of this phi 1. So E1 and E2 will be, with respect to V1, they will be in opposite side. So this is basically the phasor diagram of a transformer which is on no load or whose secondary is open circuited. Do you understand what I tried to say? I have tried to make you understand the relationship with a phasor diagram in a sequential manner. First we applied V1, and due to V1, as there is a closed loop or a closed circuit, I1 will flow. Now it is a AC circuit. Depending upon the nature of the circuit, the I1 will lead or lag. We found that it is a inductive, mostly inductive circuit, so the I1 will lag, but there will be certain amount of resistance, so the lagging will be not by purely 90 degree, a lesser value than 90 degree. So now as it is on the open circuit, the secondary is open, naturally the magnitude of the current I1 will be less. Now we are bifurcating the phasor I. We are getting two parts. One is I1 sin theta, another is I1 cos theta. Now we can understand that the I1 sin theta part is actually responsible for the production of flux. So this flux is actually 90 degree lagging with respect to the applied voltage. Now after that, when the flux is there, it is a alternating flux, and we know, we got in the previous slide, we got the expressions that EMF induced E1 and E2, they are actually dependent of the maximum value of flux. And how they dependent we know. So we can understand that after the flux is induced, E1 and E2 is induced in the system. So we are taking it as a, by convention we are taking it as a lagging, because after the flux E1 and E2 both of them are induced, naturally we are taking them again 90 degree lag with respect to the flux. Though there is another type of convention where I have given you the material handout in your Google Classroom, you will find another convention is there, but I generally follow this convention where E1 and E2 is actually 90 degree lagging with respect to phi, because after the phi is generated we are getting E1 and E2. Up to this point you understand now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so another thing I would like to say that the component of current I1 is the total current. Now we have bifurcated it into two parts. One is I1 cos theta. This is called active component of current IW, and another is I1 sin theta. This is called I mu, or reactive part of the primary current. Now this part I mu is actually responsible for flux generation. Okay, so what is the total current I1? So the total current I1 is actually IW square plus I mu square under root. So this is the no load primary current of transfer, no load current, primary current at no load. And what will be the secondary current? There will be no current, as the I2 will be 0 as it is open circuited, as the secondary is open circuited. So what is the current in the primary? So one is I1 cos theta, and another is I1 sin theta. I1 sin theta is called I reactive or I mu, and I1 cos theta is called IW. This is the loss component or active component, and this is the lossless component of the primary current when the transformer is on no load. You understand? Okay,